Hello everyone, good morning. My name is Akshay. Today our topic is the 7 habits and overview. We are what we rapidly do. Excellence then is not an act but a habit. Our chapters basically is a composite of our habits. So through reap and actions. So an action reap a habit. So a habit reap a chapter. So a character reap a destiny. The maximum goes. Habits are powerful factors in our lives because they are consist often unconscious patterns. They constantly daily express our chapter and produce our effectiveness on intereffectiveness. Our chapter, as Horace Mann, the great educator, once said, habits are like a cable. We weave a strand of it every day, and soon it cannot be broken. I personally do not agree with the last part of his experience. I know they can be broken, habit can be learned and unlearned, but I also know it is not a quick fix. It involves a process and tremendous commitment. Those of us who watched the lunar voyage of Apollo 11 were transfixed as we saw the first man walk on the moon and return to Earth. Superlatives such as fantastic and incredible were inadequate to describe those wonderful days, but to go get there, those astronauts literally had to break out of the tremendous gravity pull of the Earth. More energy was spent in the first few minutes of lift off in the first few miles of travel than was used over the next several days to travel half a million miles. Heavy to have tremendous gravity pull more than most people realize or would admit, breaking deeply embedded habitual tendencies such as processions, impatience, crispness, or selfness that violate basic principle of human effectiveness. Involves more than a little willpower and a few minor changes in our lives. Lift up takes a tremendous effort, but when we break out of the gravity pull, our freedom takes on a whole new dimensions. Like any natural force, gravity pull can work with us or against us. The gravity pull of some of our habits may currently be keeping us from going where we want to go, but it is also gravity pull that keeps our world together, that keeps the planet in their orbits and our universe in order. It is a powerful forces, and if we use it effectively, we can use the gravity pull of habit to create the consensus and order necessary to establish effectiveness in our lives. Habits defended. For our purpose, we will define a habit as the intersections of knowledge, skills, and desire. Knowledge is the theoretical paradigm that what to do and the why. Skill is the how to do, and desire is the motivation, the want to do. In order to make something a habit in our lives, we have to have all three. I may be effective in my interactions with my work associates, my spouse, or my children because I constantly tell them what I think, but I never really listen to them unless I search out correct principles of human interactions. I may not even know I need to listen, even if I do know that in order to interact effectively with others, I really need to listen to them. I may not have the skill, I may not how to really listen deeply to another human being, but knowing I need to listen and knowing how to do listen is not enough. Unless I want to listen, unless I have the desire, it won't be a habit in my life. Creating a habit requires work in all three. Dominations. The being sync changes is an upward process being changing in sync, which in turn changes being and so forth as we move in an upward spiral of growth. By working on knowledge, skills, and desire, we can break through to new levels of personal and intrapersonal effectiveness as we break with old paradigms that may have been a source of pseudo security for yours. It's someone a painful process. It a changes that has to be motivated by a higher purpose, by the willingness to subordinate what you think you want now for what you want later. But this process produce happiness, the object and design of our existence. Happiness can be defined in part at least as the fruit of the desire and ability to sacrifice what we want now for what we want eventual. Effective new habits, internalized principles and patterns of behavior. Now, point is the maturity continuum. The seven habits are not a set of separate or piecemeal psych up formulas in harmony with the natural laws of growth. They provide an incremental, sequential, highly integrated approach to the development of personal and intrapersonal effectiveness. They move us progressively on a maturity continuum from dependence to independence to interdependence. We each began life as an infant, totally dependent on others. We are directed, nurtured, and sustained by others. Without this nurturing, we would only live for a few hours or a few days at the most. The gradually over the ensuing months and years, we become more and more independent physically, mentally, emotionally, and financially until eventually we can essentially take care of ourselves, becoming inner directed and self-reliant. As we continue to grow and mature, we become increasingly aware that all of nature is interdependent. There, there is an ecological system that governs nature, including society. We further discover that the higher reaches of our natural have to do with our relationships with others, that human life also is interdependent. Our growth from infants to adulthood is in accordance with natural law, and there are many dimensions to growth. Reaching our full physically maturity, for example, does not necessarily assure us of sequential emotional or mental maturity. On the other hand, a personal physically dependence does not mean that he or she is mentally or emotionally immature. On the maturity continuum, dependence is the paradigm of you take care of me, you come through for me, you did not come through, I blame you for the result. Independence is the paradigm of I can do it, I am responsible, I am self reliant, I can choose. Interdependence is the paradigm of we can do it, we can cooperate, we can combine our talent and abilities and create something greater together. Dependent people need other to get what they want. Independent people can get what they want through their own effort. Independent people combine their own effort with the effort of others to achieve their greatness success. If I were physically dependent, paralyzed, or displaced, or limited in some physically way, I would need you to help me. If I were emotionally dependent, my sense of worth and security would come from your opinion of me. If you didn't like me, it could be devastating. If I were initially dependent, I would count on you to do my thinking for me, to think through the issue and problem of my life. If I were independent physically, I could pretty well make it on my own. Mentally, I could think my own thoughts. I could move from one level of abstractions to another. I could think creativity and analyzing the organize and express my thoughts in understandable ways. Emotionally, I would be validated from within. I would be inner directed. My sense of worth would not be a function of being like to traded well. It's easy to see the independence is much more mature than if I were physically dependent, paralyzed, or displayed or limited in some physically way. I would need you to help me. If I were emotionally dependent, my sense of worth and security would come from your opinion of me. If you didn't like me, it could be disverting. If I were intentionally dependent, I would could on you to do my thinking for me, to think through the issue and problem of my life. If I were independent physically, I could pretty well make it on my own. Mentally, I could think my own thoughts. I could move from one level of abstractions to another. I could think creativity and analytical and organize and express my thoughts in understandable voice. Emotionally, I would be validated from within. I would be inner directed. My sense of worth would not be a function of being liked or treated well. It's easy to see that independence is much more mature than the upward spiral of growth that lifts you to new levels of understanding and living each of the habits as you come around to them on a progressively higher plan. The diagram on the preceding page is a visual representation of the sequence and the interdependence, the seven habits, and will be used throughout this book as we explore both the sequential relationship between the habits and also their synergy, how in relating to each other they create bold new forms of each other that add even more to their value. Each concept or habit will be highlighted as it is introduced. Effectiveness dependent. The seven habits are habits of effectiveness because they are based on principles. They bring the maximum long term benefits result possible. They become the basis of a person's chapter, creating an empowering center of correct maps from which an individual can effectively solve problems, maximum opportunities, and continually learn and integrity. Other principle in an upward spiral of growth. They are also a habit of effectiveness because they are based on a paradigm of effectiveness that is in harmony with a natural law of principle. I call the PPC balance, which many people break themselves against. This principle can be easily understood by a remembering Aesop's fable to the goose and the golden egg. This fable is the story of a poor farmer who one day discovered in the nest of his pet goose a glittering golden egg. At first, he thinks it must be some kind of trick, but as he starts to throw the egg aside, he has second thoughts and takes it in to be appreciated instant. The egg is pure gold. The farmer cannot believe his good fortune. He becomes even more incredulous the following day when the experience is repeated day after day. He awakens to rush to the nest and find another golden egg. He becomes fabulously wealthy. It all seemed too good to be true, but with his increasing wealth comes greed and impatience. Unable to wait day after day for the golden eggs, the farmer decided he will kill the goats and get them all at once. But when he opens the goes, he finds it empty. There are no golden eggs, and now there is no way to get any more. The farmer has destroyed the ghosts that produced them. I suggest that within these fables is a natural law, a principle, the basic definitions of effectiveness. Most people see effectiveness from the golden egg paradigm. The more you produce, the more you do, the more effectively you are. But as the story shows, true effectiveness is a function of two things: what is produced, the golden eggs, and the producing asset or capacity to produce the ghost. If you adopt a pattern of life that focus on golden eggs and neglects the ghost, you will soon be without the assets that produce it. Golden eggs, on the other hand, if you only take care of the ghost within, no aim toward the golden eggs, you soon won't have the wherewithal to feed yourself or the ghost. Effectiveness lies in the balance, what I call the PC balance. P stands for production of desired result, the golden X. PC stands for production capability, the ability or a set that produces the golden X. Three kinds of assets. Basically, three kinds of assets: physically, financials, and human. Let's look at each one in turn. A few years ago, I purchased a physically asset, a power law on mower. I used it over and over again without doing anything to maintain it. The mower worked well for 2 seasons, but then it began to break down. When I tried to receive it with service and sharpening, I discovered the engine had lost over half its original power capacity. It was essentially worthless. Had I invested in PC in preserving and maintaining the assets, I would still be enjoying its P. The mood loan as it was. I had to spend for more time and money replacing the more than I ever would have spent, and had I maintained it, it simply was not effective. In our quiet for short term returns or result, we often run a price physically assessed: a car, a computer, a washer or dryer, even our body of our environment. Keeping P and PC in balance makes a tremendous difference in the effective use of physically assets. It also powerful impact the effective use of financial assets. How often to do confuse principal with interest? Have you ever invented principle to increase your standard of living to good get more golden eggs? The decreasing principle has decreasing power to produce interest or income, and the dividing capital becomes smaller and smaller until it no longer supply even basic needs. Our most important financial assets is our own capacity to earn. If we don't continually invest in improving our own PC, we severely limit our options. We are locked into our present situation, running scared of our corporations or our boss opinion of us, economical, dependent, and defensive. Again, it simply is not effective. In the human area, the PC balance is sequential, fundamental, but even more important because people control physical and financial assets. When two people in a marriage are more concerned about getting the golden eggs, the benefits they are in preserving the relationship that makes them possible, they often become insensitive and increasable negative. The little kindness and countries so important to a deep relationship, they begin to use control leaves to manipulate each other to three kinds of assets. Basically, there are three kinds of assets: physical, financial, and human. Let's look. at each one it true. A few years ago, I purchased a physical assets, a power lawn mower. I used it over and over again without doing anything to maintain it. The mower worked well for 2 seasons, but then it began to break down when I tried to receive it with service and serving. I discovered the engine had lost over half its original power capacity. It was essentially worthless. Had I invested in PC in preserving and maintaining the assets, I would still be enjoying it. The mood alone as it was, I had to spend for far more time and money replacing the mower than I ever would have spent had I maintained it. It simply was not effective. In our quest for short-term returns or results, we often run a prized physical assets, a car, a computer, a washer, or dryer, even our body of our environment. Keeping P and PC in balance makes a tremendous difference in the effective use of physical assets. It also powerful impacts the effective use of physical assets. It also powerful impacts the effective use of financial assets. How often do people confuse principal with interest? Have you ever invented principle to increase your stand of living to get more golden eggs? The describing principle has described power to produce interest or income, and the dividing capital becomes to produce interest or income, and the dwindling capital becomes smaller and smaller until it no longer supplies even basic needs. Our most important financial assets is our own capacity to earn. If we don't continually invent in improving our own PC, we severely limit our options. We are locked into our present situations, running scared of our corporations or our boss opinion of us. Economically dependent and defensive. Again, it's simple is not effective. In the human area, the PC balance is equally fundamental but even more important because people control physically and financial assets. When two people in a marriage are more concerned about getting the golden eggs, the benefits, then they are in pursuing the relationship that makes them possible. They often become insensitive and inconsiderate. The little kindness and courtesy so important to a deep relationship. They begin to use control levers to manipulate each other to focus on their own needs, to justify their own positions, and look for evidence to show the wrongness of the other person. The love, the richness, the softness, and sportly begin to determinative. The ghost gets sicker day by day. And what about a parent's relationship with a child? When children are little, they are very dependent, very vulnerable. It becomes so easy to neglect the PC work, the training, the communicating, the relating, the listening. It's easy to take advantage, to manipulate, to get what you want the way you want it right now. You're bigger, you're smarter, and you're right. So why not just tell them what to do if necessary? Yell at them, intimidated them instant on your way, or you can endure them. You can go for the golden egg of popularity of pleasing them, giving them their way all the time. Then they grow up without any internal sense of stands or exceptions, without a personal communicate to begin discipline or responsible. Either way, authoritarian or permissive, you have the golden egg mentally. You want to have your way or you want to be liked, but what happens many time to the goes what sense of responsibility to self-discipline of confidence in the ability to make good choice or achieve important goals is a child going to have a few years down the road. And what about your relationship when he reaches those critical teen years? The identify cries will he know from his experience with you that you will listen without judging, that you really deeply care about him as a person, that you can be trusted no matter what? Will the relationship be strong enough for you to reach him, to communicate with him, to influence him? Suppose you want your daughter to have a clean room, that's be productions the golden egg, and suppose you want her to clean it, that's PC productions capability. Your daughter is the ghost, the assets, the products, the golden egg. If you have P and PC in balance, she cleans the room carefully without being reminded because she is committed and has the discipline to stay with the communicate. She is a valuable assets, a ghost that can produce golden eggs. But if your paradigm is focused on productions, on getting the room clean, you might find yourself nagging her to do it. You might even escalate your efforts to threatening or yelling, and in your desire to get the golden egg, you undermine the health and welfare of the ghost. Let me share with you interesting PC experience I had with one of my daughters. We were planning a private date, which is something I enjoy regularly with each of my children. We find that the inceptions of the data is as satisfying as the realizations. So I approached my daughter and says, "Honey, tonight's your night. What do you want to do?" "Oh, Dad, that's okay," she replied. "No, really?" I said. "What would you like to do?" "Well," she finally said, "what I want to do." "You want to do, really want to do?" "Really, honey," I said earnestly. "I want to do, no matter what. It's your choice." "I want to do see Star Wars," she replied. "But I know you don't do like Star Wars. You slept through it before. You don't like these fans. They see movies. That's okay, Dad." "No, honey, if that's what you do like to do, I'd like to do it." "Dad, don't worry about it. We don't know. Allows have to have this," that she pushed and then added. "But you know why you don't like Star Wars? It because you don't understand the philosophy and training of a Jedi Knight. What? You know the things you teach, that those are the same things that go into the training of a Jedi Knight." "Really?" "Let's go to Star Wars." And we did. She sat next to me and gave me the paradigm. I become her student, her learner. It was totally fascinations I could bring to show out of a new paradigm. The whole why a Jedi Knight basically philosophy and trainings manifested in different circumstances. That experience was not a planet B experience, it was the secret patience fruit of a PC investment. It was a bonding and very satisfying, but we enjoyed Golden X too as the ghost. The quality of the relationship was significantly feed organizational PC. One of the immensely valuable aspects of any correct principle is that is the valid and applications in a wide variety of circumstances. Throughout this book, I would like to share with you some of the ways in which these principles apply to organize including families as well as to individuals. Thank you.